impact and inspire others by sharing their stories. So that is what we're up to today. And we have, last but not least, amazing guest joining us. Ashley Bernardi is the founder and CEO of Nardi Media, which is quickly become our favorite author PR company. I'm so grateful to have been introduced to Ashley by the amazing Dr. Emma Seppala, who is a professor of psychology at Yale and an expert in happiness. And she introduced us to Ashley. Ashley has worked with many of our clients doing author PR. She helps book authors, influencers, experts, executives, academics, nonprofits, startups achieve television, radio, podcast, and print online interviews. She is also comes from the world of broadcast media herself. This is one of the reasons that I really love working with Ashley. She and her team have experience on the other side. So they have worked at CBS, Bloomberg, and the Today Show. So they know what it's like to receive the pitches and they know what the media and press is looking for. So we are going to be talking to Ashley today about author PR. Thank you for being here, Ashley. And I have one more thing to say, which is that Ashley has offered a free copy of her book to one of our live participants today. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Maymay. I'm so excited to be here.
So we just love working with you. I think one of the reasons that we have found such a synergy between your best-selling book and Nardi Media is because we share a lot of similar values and beliefs. And one of those is the power of an authentic story. So can you talk a little bit about that from your perspective?
Absolutely. And I love the authentic story is, this is my book, Authentic Power. And in listening, Jason was touching on this as I was listening in a little bit before. The media wants your messiness. And I always say your mess is your message. So without that struggle, without that controversy, without those meaningful specifics of your story, you're just another expert and talking head. And when I heard Jason, he was like, just go there. That is the truth. When you're pitching yourself to the media, you go there. And I go there in my book and in my pitches. My team pitched me out and I was everywhere when my book came out in 2021. We just went to the heart of my book message. And this is, I'm going to give it to you in 30 seconds and it can be pretty jarring, but here it is. As an 11-year-old child, I witnessed my father drop dead in front of me, tried to save his life. He was suffering from a heart attack and there was nothing that I could do. I was with my family. There was nothing we could do. And from there, I spiraled into grief and people pleasing and addiction and just could never forgive myself for not saving my father's life until later in life when I was hit with a chronic illness that ended up being Lyme disease. That was my aha moment. That was the moment of reckoning for me where I turned my life around and began to heal. Boom, there you go. I just went there. And I know it can be a jaw dropper, but that's where I want you to go. I want you to go to those, your mess is your message. It is your responsibility to share your message, and that includes your mess. That is what authenticity is. You do not need to sugarcoat, oh yes, I went to this school and I have this award and that. People can't relate to that. And the media, they're all looking for something that their audience can relate to. And so by using that message for me in my book, I was everywhere. I was on TV. I got featured in The Hill. I can share that article with you. I mean, it was everywhere because there is an instant connection. When I go there and I talk about my grief, who has not experienced grief in their life? I mean, and if you are, you're very lucky, but likely 100% of us will. So that is relatable. There is a connection there. And by telling your story, that's where people listen and they learn from you and they remember you. So that's where the authenticity piece comes from, Maymay.
Well, I mean, I think it is so powerful. First of all, wow. Yeah. Way to have your elevator pitch of your really profound and incredible life story. And I love your mess is your message. That is so brilliant and just boiling it down to the core of the matter. I think when people don't speak from an authentic place, it's boring.
No, nobody wants to listen. Think about it. Mess is literally in the word message. It's right there. There's your reminder every day, not to sugarcoat anything. Just show up authentically, who you are, the beautiful messiness of you. No, especially these days, nobody wants to see a perfectly curated person on social media. I'm sorry, my eyes glaze over. I'm not interested. I don't want to see it. Especially members of the press. They are looking for, and I can say this because I was a network TV producer at CBS News and Bloomberg and the Washington Post. We are looking for those human stories, those human interest, human connection stories. So what is it about your story that makes you unique, that people tend to always want to ask you about? Maybe it's your friends, your family. If you're not sure where to start, think of one thing that you're proud of within your story or the book that you're writing that you're really excited to speak to. And I promise that's going to lead to something that's meaningful and specific that brings out that human touch. And this is exactly what I teach in media training, is just really extracting the humanity of all of us. And I think there's also a piece of unconditioning that needs to happen. We've all been conditioned in our society to just show up, buttoned up, look great. Here I am in my jacket for you today, May. I'm a professional woman. No, I'm a freaking mess, right? I've got kids on iPads all over this house, right? There's ice outside. Let's just be real here. This time is now, and this is what the media is craving. They want your realness. They want you to make mistakes. If you make mistakes, you're more relatable. If you make a mistake in a national TV interview, you're more relatable. People are going to like you more. You even have a better shot of it going viral. So yeah, I mean, I could talk about this all day long, but totally relate to this, May.
Yeah, I love that. So just to flip it on its head, so we know what people like and we know what the media likes. What is a pitfall that you have seen some of your authors fall into?
Um, whew, that's a great question. Authors, we get into our heads. It's the I'm not good enough. What makes me the expert? What if I forget what to say? It's the fear of speaking out. So once you write your book, you're like, oh crap, now I got to go talk about it. Yeah, guess what? I can tell you this. Marketing your book and talking about your book is more work than writing your book. At least that was my experience, because the media wants your thought leadership. You're having to write articles. You're doing interviews, podcast interviews, sometimes several a day. You have to get in the right mindset for the TV interview. And so there is this moment of self-doubt that we all experience. And it's, oh my God, wait, who am I to talk on TV about this? And I have a whole framework that's called Be Heard, that it teaches you to believe in yourself and the power of your voice and empowering your inner knowing in order to share your message. But that is one of the biggest pitfalls, is that authors almost stop themselves at their self-doubt. And it's just the negative self-talk. It's such a mindset thing, truly, going into media interviews. And if you haven't mastered your mindset first, you are always going to be second guessing yourself. And the message I want to share to you is, you're going to mess up. If you're going to do a lot of media interviews, they're not going to be all rainbows and sunshines. I've done a ton of TV interviews where I'm like, that one was okay. But guess what? There's going to be another one. And you know what? I'm my own toughest critic. And that's my second pitfall that we all have. You, the author, are always going to be your own toughest critic. So you're going to think, oh my God, my interview was terrible. I think I was awful. But guess what? When I'm reviewing our clients, their interviews that they do on TV, and I'm a media trainer, my feedback is like, you're your toughest critic. You were amazing. You nailed it. Your eye contact was excellent. You were engaging. You were informing. We are always going to be our own toughest critics. So remind yourself of that and see what you can do to reframe it, to say, what did you like about that interview that you did? Or maybe even reframe before the interview. I am the expert. I'm a badass. Get up and do some jumping jacks. Get your energy level up, because you have done the work by writing this incredible book. And now it's your responsibility to share it with the world, and they need to hear your voice. So those are the two big pitfalls that I see, is the self-doubt, the I'm not good enough, the fears around that. And it's just so important for us to work on our mindset before we get out and share our message with the world.
That is terrific advice. And I think that also, when you talk about jumping jacks, like just also the energy, because I find that some people can get a little robotic with sort of reciting. I think that goes
Oh, yeah.
with the nervousness and the lack of confidence and not believing in themselves and sort of like defaulting to, like you said, getting in your head and kind of reciting, here are my talking points, and forgetting that you have to be this like you right now, this big, shiny presence to capture people's attention.
That's right. And the one piece of advice I can give as you're preparing for the media is do not ever wing that interview, because you are going to eat yourself alive. You must prepare, 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 prepare. How do we prepare? You practice. How do we practice? You practice. If you've only written down what you want to say to the media, you've only done 10% of the work. But here I am, Ashley Bernardi. I want to give you an A+. Here's how you get an A+. You need to practice speaking your message out loud. So you can write down what you want to say in bullet points, and then maybe hand your partner or a kid or a friend, here's some questions. Can we just practice some back and forth questions about my book, what you want to be talking about? And I recommend recording yourself on your phone or on Zoom and then watching the playback. Okay, I like how I said this. The more you practice, the more confident you're going to be walking into those interviews. I have never seen someone who has practiced for an interview fail an interview. Anyone who has ever practiced has nailed it. And I'm not saying you need to practice 9 hours a day. It's like for me, when I'm preparing for a TV interview, 20 minutes here, 20 minutes while I'm doing my makeup, driving the car to the TV studio, I'm practicing out loud. I'm sharing my message out loud. Get into the studio. It is totally conversational, because to your point, Maymay, you want it to be authentic. You don't want it to sound scripted. You don't want it to sound rehearsed. You really want it to come from your heart. And you need to practice in order to get there.
So funny. It comes full circle to exactly where we started our day, which was with Colleen Shell, who's a speaking expert and the CEO of FabX. She, the exact same thing. She was like, don't you dare get on stage without practicing. Practice every minute that you have, to a kid, to a partner, to a friend, in your car. And I love the idea of recording yourself and watching it. That is such a great suggestion. Okay. What is one of the favorite stories that you covered in your media career, or that you have shared, through Nardi Media?
Wow. Okay, I'm going to tell a story through Nardi Media, because this is super important. It's about persistence, and it's about the ability to be completely unaffected by the word no. So here's what I'll say. As you're pitching yourself to the media or sharing your book message to the media, remember, you're not for everyone, and everyone's not for your book. And so you really have to think strategically. Is my book a business book? Then why do I want to be on the Today Show? Today Show is not going to cover a business book, truly. Like, they're just not. So you really need to think about the audience, where they're hanging out. But I also want you to remember this. Just because you pitch one person doesn't mean that the whole show is a pass forever. So I'm going to tell a story about two of my favorite authors that I've ever had. They wrote the book Freddie Steinmark, Faith, Family, Football. Amazing book by my friends Bauer and Tom. And this was several years ago. And I was like, this was the story of Freddie Steinmark, who was a University of Texas football player, and he ended up getting cancer, and he really started the war on cancer as we know it now. It's an incredible book about his life and how he's raised awareness for cancer. Okay, so I knew I wanted to get it on CBS Mornings, and I pitched one producer there, and she's like, oh, no, not for us. And I was like, really? Okay, then let me go back to another producer I know in a different hour, and I know he likes football. Maybe I should have just pitched him first. I pitched him, and he was like, wow, can we get some visuals? Can we go out to Denver? Can we go out to UT Texas? And I said, yeah, I'll coordinate all of this. Guess what, my friends? CBS News ended up doing a 6-minute piece, which is unheard of for a story. Like, I used to be a producer, okay? It was like, you get 1:30, you get 2 minutes. You can look up this story online, Freddie Steinmark on CBS News. It was a 6-minute, beautifully produced piece. And CBS was so happy that I sent them this story. They ended up sending me a bouquet of flowers after, which has also never happened. But that just goes to show that it doesn't, like, just because one person passes doesn't mean that it's a pass forever. So get creative about the word no, be persistent, and just be unaffected by the word no. And this is also a life skill. I can just say this as a business owner and entrepreneur. Like, I get told no all day long pitching the media, and I'm just like, okay, guess what? My mom, who's also an entrepreneur, she taught me this. For every 1,000 no's, you are going to get a yes. Like, statistically, you are going to get a yes. So if you pitch 1,000 media outlets, come back to me if they've all passed on you. I guarantee you they haven't. So unaffected by the word no, I share that story just to show you how important persistence is in this world.
Fantastic. I love it. Jen, I believe we have a question from our audience.
We do. Hi, Ashley. Good to see you. Yeah, we have a question from one of our audience members, Laura Pearson. Asks, what about for us nonfiction writers who want to be seen as a resource for press on exciting things like legal issues or climate science? I know she's saying a little of that in tongue in cheek, but an excellent question. And
oh my gosh,
what are your thoughts on that?
Can I let me just show you all my books behind me that are nonfiction books where my experts and my authors, that's how you get yourself. Is it Laura? Is that who it is? Laura? Who has that? Laura, yeah. This is how you get yourself in the media with your book. So when you are pitching yourself, let's say, I'm going to give you an example. There are horrific wildfires, as you know, happening in Los Angeles by now. We know so many people, everyone here probably, who has been impacted. One of my clients, who is also an author, happens to be a building resilience expert. What does that mean? He is a natural disaster expert for buildings. He can tell you why some buildings in Los Angeles burned down and why some did not. And so, given this breaking news this week, we used him as an expert for sources in the media from this breaking news story, because so many of my media contacts were looking for disaster, building, insurance experts, all of which that's what he is. Guess what? Today alone, I had him in a Fortune interview. I had him on the Daily Beast. He's getting ready to do an interview on TV at 5 o'clock right now. Yesterday, he did 2 TV interviews. The day before, he did another interview. So just to show that, like, yes, if you can keep up with the current events and make yourself available quickly to comment on them, you will see success. That is how most all of my nonfiction authors see success. It's not about like promoting the book. I certainly wasn't like, hey, he's got this great book out that you can use for your coverage. No, I say he is a well, let me tell you the story. He's a 9/11 survivor, a construction industry veteran. And so I tell his story and say, and he can comment explicitly on the insurance implications of the wildfires, the building implications of the wildfires, the evacuation implications. And so as a result of that, pitching the breaking news as opposed to his book, yes, his book's going to get a mention in all this stuff, but pitching his expertise is how we were able to get him and the book in all of these major media outlets. So that was a great question.
Such a good question, Laura. Thank you for asking that. And I know I was on the receiving end of pitches for nearly a decade contributing to Forbes. So I also have that perspective of just having seen, hundreds of pitches in a month go by. And I always looked for the story. Not just the story of what am I trying to sell you? What's my product? The story of the founder, the story of the author. What is your story? That's what popped out to me every time. So when you say like, I was a single mom and, I was flat broke. And so I went and I started this cleaning service. Like that is going to capture my attention instantly more than we are carried in 50 Whole Foods chains across the country. Well, who cares? So
nobody cares.
Yeah. Always the story. And then the relating it to the news, obviously that's your job, is connecting it to what's happening in the news right now, right? Like I think the wildfires are a perfect example for climate change. Like, Laura, if you're writing about climate change, hello. I mean, not that we're happy about what's going on whatsoever or celebrating it, but it is your moment to speak up because you have people's attention.
That's right.
Yeah. Amazing. So Jen, Kiran, do we have other questions here? One of you want to pop on?
We don't have other ones from the attendees, but that was my first time hearing the full extent of your story. Ashley, and your journey to getting here to where you are. What do you wake up in the morning thinking about yourself as a storyteller? Is that like how you think about yourself? Because you certainly are surrounded by it and generate it yourself and everything. I'm curious because that title means something to some people and not to others. And I'm curious what your relationship to that title is.
Yeah, I love that question, Jen. Thank you. So I will say this, as a journalist, I'm a trained storyteller. Like I have been telling stories since I was a kid, when I would take my dad's big old clunky 80s camcorder and report on my family news and the stories. So it's something that I've always done. I think it's my calling, and also just to teach people how to tell their stories. And if you're, like I said, like I can talk about a couple components of your story that I see, like ingredients for powerful storytelling, if you think that's helpful. A couple things. The first thing is your credibility. So as you're sharing your story, your credibility is not to toot your own horn like, oh yeah, I was a producer at CBS News and Bloomberg and blah, blah, blah. No, that's to build trust and rapport with your audience. So that can be from, I suffered, enormous grief as a child. I lost my father to a sudden death heart attack when I was 11 years old, to suffering from Lyme disease after I had 3 kids in my 30s. That I'm not saying that to just be like, oh, look how much I've been through. No, I'm saying that so you can relate to me, but you can also trust me as the expert for whatever subject I'm speaking about. So sometimes I wear my producer hat and I say, here's my background, and I say that so you can trust me. Sometimes, and I'm also a life coach too. So if I'm talking about my grief journey and my struggle with Lyme disease, that's when I'm wearing my life coach hat. So that's how you can relate to people. Another piece of advice I'll share is simple language. So you are an expert on a very complicated subject, most likely, like using Laura as an example, climate change, that not everybody really truly understands it. And same with TV production. Not everybody understands it. So I'm not going to go sit here and tell you what a rundown and a VOSOT is, right? You need to speak in simple language so that anybody can understand it. And the more you can do that in your storytelling, the more likely you're going to reach more people. And then the final thing I'll say on this, and I could go a lot more, but I'll stop myself, is being meaningfully specific. And this is especially important when you're communicating with journalists. They don't want to hear just like, okay, let's say it's Valentine's Day and we're doing a self-love, self-care Valentine's Day segment. They don't want to hear general talking points like give yourself a massage, take a bath. Like that is not surprising or unique. So be meaningfully specific. What is surprising, unique, and different that hasn't been said before? Be explicitly specific about that when you're sharing your story. So that's just a couple. I can go on, May, but I'll stop myself to see if there's any follow-up questions.
I think we had another question from someone in our audience, Jen. Is that right?
We do. Stephanie asked the question, how do you decide if a potential client is a good fit for what you do? What's involved and how does it tie in with what you've shared here?
Yeah,
Can you address that a bit?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So first and foremost, I am a woman of energy. It's got to be an energetic fit. And I think especially when you're working with a PR team, you are working with someone who is going to be your biggest cheerleader next to you. And you want to make sure, so for me, when my team and I are looking at reviewing a book and reviewing someone's expertise, is this something that I'm fired up about promoting, that I can personally get behind, not just professionally, personally. And that's where that positive energy comes in, because if I'm excited about this, I can sell this when I get on a phone with a producer. If I'm like, this isn't like, I don't know, I'll refer someone out. So that's really how we vet. But then also we do mostly work with nonfiction authors. Many of them are academics. So May mentioned Dr. Emma Seppala. She's a perfect example. She's a Stanford and Yale psychologist. We've promoted both of her books, and she even wrote the foreword for my book. So we love working with the academics, anywhere from psychologists, psychiatrists to MDs, professors, you name it. But if you're not an academic, that doesn't mean we won't work with you. We do a lot of business and leadership and parenting books. No surprise, because those are all interests for me and my team. Everyone on my team, they're a parent, they're interested in leadership. We're very interested in climate change. So those are just how we vet. But first and foremost, as you're vetting PR firms, it's got to be an energetic match. If you're not feeling the energy from the PR team, move along and find someone who you really feel like can be your next best cheerleader next to you.
And I think we had one question from Kiran, and then we will wrap. So go, Kiran.
No, I really wanted to ask Ashley, because you've got both sides. Like, you're fronting images, books to get that out there, but you're also a creator as well. So I wanted to know, in terms of your vulnerability, like how you create stories, because obviously, like, when you're going out there with a client and a book and everything, it is trying to, like, that's a different skill set, and you're obviously fantastic at that. But I just wanted to know, like, what when you create, what are your vulnerable points that you want to hit on?
Like personally, when I'm like writing content.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I mean, so I guess I can marry this also with Nardi Media, because I do talk a lot about mindset, both within what I do at like ashleybernardi.com, which is my book Authentic Power, but also the media. So I'll give you an example, because this is something that I'm going to be writing about next, but it's comparison. So this happens all the time, authors. Hello. Like, I have a self-help book, and am I the only self-help author? No, there's a million other self-help authors out there. And if I spend my time going down the rabbit hole of social media, I'm going to feel like a piece of crap, that I'm not good enough, that I'm not worthy enough. So that's my vulnerability point, is that it's the, who doesn't feel that when they're on social media or looking at someone else, or even here, like, I can't do that, I'm not good enough. It goes back to that mindset piece. So I am going to be writing soon about comparison, because this is something that comes up for a lot of my author clients. I saw my competitor out there, I'm just getting so frustrated, like they were on this and I wasn't, and blah blah blah. Like, think about how much energy that just eats up of you when you're comparing yourself. And here's what I'm going to tell you. You see a competitor on CNN, you don't know who their connection was. You don't know who's pitching them. You don't know the timing of it. You don't know anything. They're just, they could have even paid for it. Like I've seen so many people pay to get on what looks like the cover of magazines. They just pay a couple $1,000s for it and they do it. But then suddenly everyone has that, like, oh my God, I need to get in that. I need to do that too. And so comparison will kill your vibe for your book launch. It'll kill your energy. I recommend just stopping to do it right now. But from that vulnerable piece that you asked about, I do it too. And it's something that I have to stop myself doing. So I will be writing about that. Something that I encourage all authors, put your blinders on. When you are promoting your book, act as if it is just your book. Stay in your lane. There is always going to be competition out there. Always. There's always going to be somebody on the Today Show when you think it should have been you. There's always going to be someone featured in My Body Green when you think it should be you. Don't even go into it with that energy. Okay. So just put your blinders on, stay focused on your mission, which is to secure placements for you and get your message out there, and you will be better for it. And you know what else I'll say? Uplift your competition. Cheer them on. If they're on the freaking Today Show, it's freaking amazing. Okay. Amazing. Celebrate them. Don't sit and be like, oh, why wasn't that me? All right. So it's all about reframing it. So that's my vulnerability moment. I'll be writing about it soon. I'll be putting it on the Nardi Media blog.
I love that. Awesome. Thank you. You know, I love everything you said is equally applicable to the actual process of writing your book, because one of the most common questions we get from people who are thinking about writing a book is, I feel like I've always had a book in me. People have always told me I want to write a book, but there's so many other books like this out there. And I'm like, you know what? Just, you cannot. Same thing. Just don't even look, because your book is by you and it's happening now. And for all those reasons, your book could reach an audience that needs to hear it at this moment in history, at the moment it comes out, from you, for whatever reason that is, because you're a parent, because of your, you know, your background, your race, I mean, who knows what it is, but the person needed to hear it from you right then, now. And so I love that advice of putting your blinders on. It's like, and then also, those people who are quote unquote your competition could also be your greatest allies. And I'm always telling people, don't just cheer them on, get on there, collaborate with them, connect, do an event together, share audiences, right? I mean, like, this is a great way to grow your following. Is like most people who are interested in that topic, they don't want just one book on it, they want two. So
That's right.
So thank you for being on today. Ashley, is such a delight always speaking with you. Thank you for everything. And Ashley is donating a copy of her book. Yay! So not necessarily people who are on now, but all throughout the day, anyone who is listening live today has an opportunity to win your book. So thank you so much for sharing that as well. And we will put all your contact info. Is there anything you want to share about where to find you? We will also share it, but just let us know real quick.
Oh yeah, just find me at nardimedia.com, Nardi media.com. If you want to reach out to us, it's nardimedia.com/contact.
That's easy.
Easy
Ashley
peasy.
Bernardi, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Lovely to
Great
talk
to
to
be
you.
here today, everyone. Thank you so
you.
much. Bye.
And we are wrapping our live event. Good job.